If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump with your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schaefer, and Justin Andrews.
In this episode of Mind Pump.
Hello, everyone.
For the first 38 minutes, we do some fun conversation, not a lot of fitness talk. This is when we catch up with everything in life. And after 38 minutes, we get into the fitness. So we start out by talking about our Christmas recap, kind of talking about what we did over the Christmas holiday and how we all survived different family traditions. Yeah, some of our families are big and loud. Some of them are quiet and not so loud. And how do we deal with
some of them drink?
All of that? Then we talked about our New Year's Eve plans. I'm still going to go out and party, even though Adam poo-pooed on it again. Then we talked about Skinny Dipped. Their almonds are amazing. The macros are pretty damn good. These are almonds covered in chocolate, a nice thin layer of chocolate. We are sponsored by them, and you can get their snacks at skinnydipped.com. That's SKINNYDIPPED.com/mindpump. Enter the code mindpump. You're going to get 20% off.
Would be a great New Year's Eve, snack.
There you go. Then we talked about the placebo effect of genetic tests. Could getting your genes tested make you feel sicker just because those tests tell you may be predisposed to certain illnesses? Then we talked about the GoFundMe account that seems to be funding the border wall. People are voluntarily giving their money to the government.
Is that what they're calling it? Because I know, like, China has the Great Wall. I just imagine, Trump wanting to call it, like, the Excellent Wall or, like, the Amazing Wall.
Yeah, the best.
The best.
It's the best
just
one.
Best wall.
Then we talked about statins and how they affect your body fat. That's right. They may actually change body fat into the less calorie-burning forms of body fat. Not a good thing. Then we get into the fitness questions. Now, the first question was, why does this person feel addicted to high-intensity exercise? They feel like they can't function in the morning without doing some high-intensity interval training every single morning. What is the problem? What's going on?
I need my burpees, man.
Now, we give them some recommendations on how they can help themselves out. One of the recommendations was to supplement with 4-sigmatic cordyceps so that this person can balance out their cortisol levels and their overall hormone levels. Now, 4-sigmatic makes quality mushroom extracts, medicinal mushroom extracts, using both a hot and cold way of extracting the beneficial compounds. I love this product. They are one of our sponsors. If you go to 4-sigmatic, FOURSIGMATIC.com/mindpump and use the code mindpump, you'll get a discount. The next question was, do we ever think there's going to be a backlash in the future with coffee consumption and caffeine? Do we think people are over-caffeinated? Is it always good for you, or are there times when you should probably reduce or eliminate your consumption of caffeine?
Blasphemy.
Next question, how do you overcome the mental side effects of fat gain? In other words, from bulking, So I'm trying to gain muscle, which means I need to eat more calories, but I'm gaining a little bit of body fat. How do I deal with that mental aspect? Like, I want to gain the muscle, but I don't want to gain the body fat. What do I do?
Go towards the fat. And
the final question, are mini cuts and mini bulks considered yo-yo dieting? We've talked in the past about how you can increase your calories and decrease your calories in the most effective ways possible to maximize the fat-burning effect of reducing calories and the muscle-building effects of boosting calories. But isn't that just yo-yo dieting, or is it different? Find out in that part of this episode. Also, I want to let you know there's only 4 days left for the end-of-the-year promotion where you can get free access to our private forum for an entire year. Our private forum has trainers on there. It has fitness enthusiasts, doctors. Some of our amazing interview guests are in the forum. And then, of course, myself, Justin, and Adam are on there every single day. So it's a great place to ask questions and have fitness discussions or fun discussions. Normally costs money. It's actually free the rest of the year if you enroll in a MAPS program. Any of our MAPS fitness products. Now, all of our MAPS fitness programs are designed for particular types of goals. Some are to build muscle, boost your metabolism. Other are for working on purely aesthetics. Others are for athletic performance boosting. If you want to find the MAPS program that works for you and get the free access to our private forum, just go to mapsfitnessproducts.com. This was one of my best, probably favorite Christmases in my whole life.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
That's a bold
That
statement.
is a strong statement.
No, it was a really really good Christmas for us. It's been, for me now, it's been a few years since, I got divorced. And
What year is this? What Christmas is this divorced? 2 or 3?
3.
Wow, it's been 3 already?
Yeah, it's been 3.
Are you serious?
Damn, that feels like it just flew by.
Yeah,
And-
that's crazy.
And I've really put a lot of effort into trying to make it the ideal situation for my kids. Ideal divorce. Never ideal, right? Not an ideal situation to begin with, but I want to make it try to make it as good as possible. And luckily, my ex, she also was dedicated to, putting the kids first. And then the significant others that we now have, like Jessica, who's, I've been dating now for a while, and my ex-wife is dating this guy, his name is Alan. They're also both very, very good people. And it's awkward, when you're around each other, but you're trying to make it, work. You want the kids to see that everybody's working together. But this is the 3rd year, and I think everybody's settling and comfortable, or more comfortable now, to where this is the first time, because last Christmas, in the last couple of years, the kids have all seen us together, but it's always kind of weird a little bit. This is the first time where I sense my kids now
Relaxing.
and I see them, playing with my ex-wife's boyfriend and hanging out with him, and I see them asking Jessica questions and hugging her in front of everybody, and it feels now that like the kids, rather than having 2 divorced parents, they have 2 new parents in their life, 2 new good people in their life, and it's felt like that the whole Christmas. We did one just Jessica and I with the kids. So we did that one on 2 days before Christmas. Then they did Christmas Eve with their mom. Jessica and I went over to the house at 6:30 in the morning so that we would be there when they woke up and came downstairs and got their gift from Santa. My ex-wife's boyfriend is also there, so he's there. Jessica and I brought mimosas, so we're all drinking mimosas. We're all toasting. We got the apple cider for the kids, so they can pretend like they have mimosas or whatever. And all of us are cheering each other, having a great Christmas, and it was just a beautiful.
Who hosted it?
That morning was at my ex's house, because this is her year for that.
You mean your old house?
Yeah, exactly.
It's nice of you to say it like that.
Yeah. Well, it's not mine anymore. It's not mine anymore. I'll tell you.
You know what? It's great. It's been 3 years, and this is the official number. I think 3 years is when we can start the divorcee jokes. I think.
Oh yeah.
I think he's jumped the gun for that early.
It's not too soon.
I was like, Katrina's like,
Adam's been pressing you.
Yeah, I did. I've been like, man, I've been holding back all these divorcee jabs, and I'm like, now it's fucking on now. Cause it's
throw them down.
Oh man, that's awesome. It all went smooth, dude.
But it was so good. It was so loving. It was so warm.
Like no more competitiveness, amongst.
It just doesn't
everybody.
feel awkward, because we've been trying, and now it feels so good.
That's a monumental feat that you
and the
just
kids are
accomplished,
flourishing. They're absolutely flourishing. I have I have cousins right now who are visiting from Italy. This is their first time in America, by the way, and they're so blown away by this country. I mean, they've left Sicily a few times, but just to go to other parts of Italy. But they've never been to Silicon Valley or whatever, and they're just blown away by everything, having a great time. And they were at my parents' house the day after they flew in. And I was there with Jessica with the kids. And then my ex shows up with her boyfriend, because she's bringing my parents her car, because they're going to borrow her car because now they have more room or whatever. So they see us all together. And my cousins are just like, you guys all are cool and hang out? And we're like, yeah. And they're just so blown away by it. And it was really cool to hear that. Yeah, really, really cool.
That's cool.
How's you guys' holiday? Did you guys have a good one?
I'm fucking tired.
Yeah.
I'm tired, dude. I'm not going to lie. I know that every year that this comes around, I'm personally challenged, and that sounds fucking shitty to say, but it's just it'll forever be. And so that's why anytime you talk about Jessica, I totally get her.
Because of the big family.
Being somebody who, it doesn't matter. It's more than 30 years of my life I've spent not like that. So to integrate into Katrina's family, who is I mean, it's nonstop. We're either at their place or they're at our place till midnight, 2 a.m. every morning. Then we're back up at the crack of dawn, cooking and prepping and back together. And, I love it, but I love it in doses, right? Like, so like
it can be overwhelming on the senses if it's not something you're used to.
It's tiring, right? And for so many years, I've learned to enjoy the holidays and enjoy those things a lot smaller and more quiet and quaint. And so there's certain things about that I've learned to appreciate. Like there comes a time where, like last night where this is like day 4 in a row or whatever of like the family between hers and mine and just constant. And I had like the big Christmas dinner and it was amazing. And all I wanted to do was like lay down on my own couch and just like watch a Christmas movie and fall asleep or relax. And it's like only 5 o'clock, but I can't do that. I'm at this big family event where ping pong's going and drinking and music and loud and celebrating. It's like, so that's tough for me, dude.
Yeah,
it really is. And then you don't want to. And for many years, I know I was that guy who, then I go find like a corner somewhere and relax, put my feet up or close my eyes for a minute. And so I've had to train myself out of that.
And then somebody's hammering you to peel the potatoes.
Yeah, something, dude. It's always
watching football.
Yeah. So I'm always trying to be a really good partner when it comes to that. So my goal always is that we make it through these holidays, and she doesn't feel that way. She doesn't feel like I ever wanted to be home
because it's important to her.
Yeah, exactly. That's really important to her. And then I also got to let go of like I'm also very anal about our house, our things, the things that are just me and her and our immediate family with the dogs and shit. And I want that all in order, and that shit all goes
ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, that goes to shit, man. When it comes to her family and it's time for these holidays, like that's fucking a priority. Mm-hmm. Like we'll show up late to anything that I got to do or whatever like that, but we're fucking on time for any of that. So every year it's challenging, but I see the personal growth every time I make it through it. Like
now, are they super? Are they loud and
very loud,
touchy feely, hug you, and
just like you're just the. I mean, they're
when Jessica talks about my family, it's very similar.
Very very similar, just like that. I mean. You come from Italian background. They come from a Hispanic background. They're all like that.
Yeah.
Everybody, you walk in and everyone's a hug and kiss and every single gift. So we had I don't know, what do we have, 20 something people around the Christmas tree. So the Christmas tree is ridiculous. It takes hours to get through all the Christmas presents. And every present, everybody waits for the next person. You open, we wait. That person gets up and hugs that person, kisses them, thanks them. Like. It's like that whole, and I'm a terrible gift receiver, so it fucking sucks when I got to make it through like 7, 8 gifts.
And you're on stage.
Yes, everybody's waiting for my reaction. Yeah, no, it's
like the eyes,
and nobody takes that into consideration. No one thinks about that. Like no one's thinking like, oh, I wonder what this is like for, because it's all normal. For me, it's the only one it's not.
I love hearing this because it really helps me understand. There's a lot of things about here's the thing. There's a lot of things about your own family that you don't realize. Can be different.
You've seen it through your lens.
That's it. And you grew up with it. You don't realize it's weird. Like, I didn't realize, Jessica tells me, she's like, why do I have to go up to every single person when I leave a party or when I get to a party and kiss them and say hello? Like, why can't I just say hi? She's like, it takes us 15 minutes to leave. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't dawn on me that that's a strange thing because I've always done it. And it doesn't make any sense that that's even weird. So I have to like back out of it, put myself into a situation like that and think, okay, I guess that is kind of weird. Like you're trying to leave and you got to go up to all these people that might not even speak English. Mm-hmm. You're going to go up to my grandfather who, tries to tell her stories half the time, and half the time
she can't understand him.
No, and she's looking at me like, don't you dare leave because he's going to tell me a joke. I'm not going to know it's a joke.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to know to laugh because I can't really understand that well.
Yeah.
So I get it, dude. I totally get it.
And I understand from your guys' perspective because you want your family to love your partner and who they're with. And for when you're that person who doesn't do that, like I know her family didn't like me for like half the time we were together because I was like that. I'm like, fuck, I'm out. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to go through the fucking 15 people, hug them, kiss them goodbye. Just awkward as fuck for me. And so, I'm stubborn too, so that's how I was at the very beginning. The very beginning, I was just like, hey, they're going to love me for, what? I'm an incredible man for you. I take care of you. I speak highly of you. I never talk down to you. I never, I support you. I'm going to be a good man. Your brothers are eventually going to love me. They may not love me right now because I'm not the family guy or whatever, but, all you, as a big brother, all you want is the man that's going to take care of your sister. Of
course.
Yeah, that's going to treat her right. That's going to take care of her.
You won them over.
Right, and they love me now. And there's been a lot of give and take on both sides, right? I think they've learned to understand me better. But when you're in it and you're the family, that's your norm, it just doesn't make sense to you. I'm the weird one. You know, there's 20 of them. They all get it and understand it. And then the one guy who doesn't. So I get it from Jessica's perspective and I get it from your perspective because you're like, you know, I want my family to love her and know all these special things that you get to share with her intimately and by yourself when she's comfortable. And then now she gets thrusted into this like, thing, and you want them to see this how great she is. But.
My aunt. So we did Christmas Day at my aunt's house up in Roseville, and so we drove all the way up. Rockland, which is near Roseville. We drove all the way up there, and there's 30, 40 people, and we get there and we're hanging out. And my aunt, who I love that my aunt did this. She takes Jessica aside and she's like, I don't think I've ever shown you my whole house. And Jessica's like, no. So she's taking her. Apparently, she took her into one of the rooms and she goes, look, I know our family is really loud and there's a lot of us. She's like, it can be kind of overwhelming. She's like, if you ever need, she's like, you can come up into this room and you just want to get on your phone or hang out a little bit by yourself. She's like, it's totally cool. It was so nice that my aunt actually said that to her.
There's always one in the family.
Yeah.
So Katrina's father, Troy, who passed away 2 we're going on 3 years now too. He was that for me. So he came into this family. He comes from a kind of dysfunctional background, with weird relationship with his mother and all that stuff, and he wasn't very close. And he loves the family, but he understood me.
Oh, right.
And so he would catch me by myself occasionally and pull me aside and just him and I talk, sitting down. And
nice.
He always made me feel good like that and he would remind me that, hey, this was me the first 10 years that I was in this family. It gets better. And he would constantly tell me it's going to be okay and stuff like that. So
commiserate a little bit.
Yeah, no. So I did have an ally when I first came into the family that would tell me you're not that weird. I was just like you, and I'm like, fuck, dude, because it's hard to me. I'm also not a faker and a pretender.
Yeah. So
to pretend. And
you could see it on your face.
Yeah, no, totally, right. So
Adam's not happy right now.
Yeah. Well, you see, I was opening the gifts, obvious. Right? Which, by the way, Katrina wasn't supposed to get me anything, and she still did. And I'm opening she got me these pair of pants, and I pull it out, and the whole family, like you said, it's on stage. Everyone's watching the reaction, and as soon as I open it, she's like, I have the receipt. We'll take that back. And everyone looks at her she's like, no, I know him. He doesn't like it.
Oh no!
Yeah,
made it worse.
Yeah, calling me out in the middle of it. So I'm like, this is already fucking a pain in the ass for me. Now you're gonna bust me out and stuff like that.
You have to lie. No, I like these.
Yeah, I love them. Yeah, then later on I come and I'm wearing a different pair. They're like, oh, are those your new pants? I'm like, no, those aren't the new pants that I didn't like. No, it's not
hilarious.
I love getting awkward gifts. Isn't that the best? No. And you have to pretend that. Yeah, and there's certain moments too where you got to wear it, specifically so they see it. You wearing it? Yeah.
Well, my mom does the. Thank God she's in Fiji this year, so we didn't actually go have Christmas with my mother. Her tradition that she loves. Two big things that you have to do for my mom on holidays, and that's play board games and get dressed up in the fucking matching. Fucking pajamas.
No, everybody does that now.
Why? Yeah. What is that?
Yeah, my mom's been doing it since we were a fucking kid. I mean, that's been and that's why. She used to when we were younger make them. She used to make them, and we would.
Oh, yeah. You had a crocheted.
Oh yeah, bro.
Nice.
Yeah, not cool at all whatsoever.
With the big spaces between the yarn or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I could see your wiener.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's legit.
How was yours, Justin? Did your kids have a good time?
Yeah, my kids. Oh yeah, of course, dude. Because on Courtney's side, there's so many nieces and nephews for them to play with and run around with and go crazy with, and so yeah, for me it's mainly just watching them do everything anymore. I just kind of remove myself from a lot of the same awkwardness, because I have that same sort of a feel is sometimes I'll get in a rhythm where I got a good conversation going with one of the relatives. I'm like, oh sweet, we're on to something here, and then it dies this instantly. I'm like, oh no, where'd it go? I'm gonna awkwardly make my way over to make another drink. That's kind of my go-to.
All us Phils get drunk.
Yeah, it's we were on to something, but for some reason it just never carries, and so that's just I haven't been able to master the long form of like going to another subject that resonates with you. You know, like I pick one and we nail it and then it fucking dies.
I'm the same way. I'm terrible with that. I'm terrible with that. That's why meeting you guys was so awesome. Like, we could talk for a long time.
I know. I'm like, you guys are so much easier. This is great. Like, this is nice.
Yeah.
You know, I can relax. Like, so yeah, I think I'm just always like a little bit more tight than normal, and that creates friction a bit. And then I have people stay over at my house, and normally I'm not real big on like company and hosting, and like I just get really uncomfortable with that whole process. And so I had a little bit of that going on top of that, and then like making sure like Courtney's happy, because like at my parents, you know, of course it's the same with her. She feels awkward, you know, for certain things that we do that's quirky and all that. And so somehow she made it out of not having to play games this year again, and we ended up leaving actually early to take my brother's kids down to play on the fort, on the treehouse, and we had this epic battle of Nerf gun wars and all that.
Fun.
So we had a great time with that, and all the, you know, like everybody else was inside drinking and talking shit about whatever, you know, was going on with me outside. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, we had a good time.
Now, did you guys both like bounce around to multiple houses, or do you guys normally like all congregate in one, and that's the same house you stay in for?
We did like, so Christmas Eve we did completely with her family, and went to church, then we went back to her house and like opened presents and did. We actually had a good time this year. And then came home, and then the next day was basically like just me, her, and the kids until about like noon to 1 o'clock, and then we went over to my parents, and then had like a dinner, sort of like in between dinner lunch. Yeah, one of those things.
Well, there's brunch. You might as well have a dinner.
But it wasn't brunch. It was like, yeah, it was, you know,
exactly, dinner.
Yeah, it's dinner.
Now, how is Courtney when it gets around her family? Now, is she like all about her family, or is she still about her immediate family with you and the kids?
Yeah, so she's transitioned more towards like we're like I think I mentioned earlier, we're trying to like figure out what our traditions are going to be and like rituals and things like that. And so I think we both agreed that was the most fun we had this year. It was just like the time we had with just the boys and us. And like she made this dish with it was like sausage, eggs, and like some kind of omelet that, you know, sort of she created, and it was a hit. It was really good. And then we just like you know, spent a lot of time. I actually like spent the most time like I enjoyed with my kids was like we went back downstairs, and I was playing with my oldest, and we're just like building Legos, and I ended up doing that for a couple hours, you know. We're just like getting into it, and they were super happy that I was like, it was like back when they were young, you know, we were like just building stuff together. So
that's
yeah,
cool.
it was really good, man. It was a good time spent.
I had something surprising happen, actually. I just remembered. So we're at my aunt's house, and as we're leaving, you know, and when I first got there, was it when I got there? Yeah, it was right around the first time when I first got there. My cousin's boyfriend shows up. Nice kid, real good kid. And, you know, I go to shake his hand, and he's very eager. Like, he gives me a good, firm handshake. Hey, how you doing, Sal? Like, you know, good to see you. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, he's a nice kid or whatever. I've met him another time. That's kind of weird. So then when I'm leaving, I'm saying bye to his mom. And his mom, she's a friend of my aunt. So I've only met this woman maybe one other time. So I go say bye to her. And she's like, oh, she goes, we really love your podcast. Now here's the thing that's weird about this. She is a hardcore Catholic, and so right when she said that, I get immediately embarrassed, right? Yeah. So I'm like, oh. So I'm like, hey, I said, really, I said, I apologize
sorry.
I apologize about the language and stuff, and I kind of laugh a little bit. And she's like, no, she goes, I first heard your podcast because you guys interviewed Bishop Barron, and I thought that was such a good episode. And then my son started listening to your show, and he's a huge fan. I'm like, no wonder that dude is so happy to say hi to me. Like, that dude's listening to the podcast. He knows a whole other side of me. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting, though. I totally didn't expect that. You know?
That's wild when that happens right now.
Yeah, that is a trick, dude.
It was a good time. It was a really good holiday. So
now, what are you guys doing for New Year's? Now, are you guys staying around? Or you guys got family? What do you have going on for New Year's?
I told you I was doing the party
chilling.
and going to a New Year's Eve party, and you shit all over it. Remember? Remember that?
I remember.
Remember talking crap about it?
Are you
It's
still
gonna suck.
Are you still?
You're gonna get in a fight.
You're gonna fight. It's gonna be terrible. I mean, enjoy yourself.
If you go and it ends up happening, I'm going to feel really bad. Like, I say that, but I want to be wrong.
You know what
I
I
say? I
feel
want you to come back and be like, that was the best New Year's we've ever had.
So I don't want to say where I'm going to be because I don't want anybody to show up there or whatever. But it's one of these parties. You pay, you get a ticket. There's a hotel room there. It's really nice or whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like are you crapping on it because Katrina wants to do something like this and you want to make sure you hammer on the
Because she listened to the show.
No.
It's like, no, it sucks, Sal.
Not at all. Truth.
do it.
Like so, I was in my place by 21, right? And at 21 on, and we used to always go out. So I remember being a kid, right? When you're a kid, like partying on New Year's is always challenging. It's like finding a house so you get whatever. So, here I am, 21 years old. I have my own place, and we always still went out. We always because we were still young, and so we would go to the city or go to a hotel party like that, or go up to Reno or go to Vegas. Like you go to San Francisco, you name it. Like I've done all those things, and every fucking year, 21, 22, 23, 20, we come back and be like, either a fight happened, or it was fucking hard to get a cab, or we slept on a wood floor, or just always shit. And I remember going, why do we do this? And every year we try a new place or a new big event thing like that. We all fucking love being with each other so much. Let's just throw it at my house. And I remember it was like around 26, 27 when we finally just said, fuck it. We're getting older. We don't need to go out with the latest club or what's going on. Let's get a bunch of bottles of champagne. Let's start the party at like 9, 10 o'clock at my house and just go through the night. And those have been the best New Year's we've ever had. Everyone's got a comfortable bed to sleep in. You don't have to worry about driving anywhere. You're with the people you love. Yeah. You're drinking the alcohol that you want to drink, and it's not fucking $1 million. Like,
that is true.
And then we've just kind of like I cashed it in on all those events because they never were that great. So it's really not. Katrina wouldn't want to do that. She would rather do family stuff anyways. But yeah, no. I hope that I'm wrong and you have an incredible time. So
I'll get back.
I'll put good vibes out there for you.
I got jumped.
I know. Yeah, he comes in all fucked up.
Dude,
how
bad day. Would you feel?
I would. I would kind of feel.
Well, then
that.
you're like, I put a warning out.
I told you.
We had an adventure.
Yeah.
No, we're doing the whole party thing. We're going to this nice hotel and you pay for the tickets and there's a theme and everything, and then we got a hotel room there and all that.
Yeah,
I will say that the time we did do a hotel party like that, that's probably one of the better times that I did have, because it's cool because they throw they'll normally those big hotels have a nice banquet room at the bottom. They have like a place where you eat, drink, or TV stuff going on in there. And then if you ever get tired of the party, you could just go up to your room.
Oh, yeah.
So of all the ones...
I wouldn't have done it because one thing you said to me that kind of stuck was, how hard it was to get like a Uber or a taxi or whatever. And I'm like, that's true, because that's going to be one of the busiest times of the year to get a car. I don't want to drive after partying because then I won't be able to really drink or whatever. So we got the hotel room. That
will be the best decision you made, because of all the things I was talking shit about, the thing that made me the most angry, even above the fights, was a San Francisco trip that we did, and we did it at this big place, $100 a ticket to get in, and we walk out at 2 a.m. when they closed down or whatever it was. Might have been later at the time, I don't remember. And the house that we were staying at was, probably 20 or 30 blocks away from there. And we stood out front trying to catch a cab the first half hour to 45 minutes, and then eventually said, fuck it, let's just try and start walking there. And I walked for another hour and a half to get to the house that we were staying at. So it was like a 2-hour adventure, rolling in at like 4:35 in the morning. I think I slept on a couch that night.
That's terrible.
And I remember like that was fucking never again will I ever.
The alcohol
That's young man stuff.
Yeah. So
like, fuck, I'm gonna sleep in this
San
bush.
Francisco on New Year's too, like fucking 30 degree and then wind chill like -6, like crazy.
And you're wearing your cool clothes.
Yeah, totally.
Warm.
Like it's like a suit jacket type of deal. I'm walking down San Francisco.
That you got to give to the girl that you went with.
Yeah,
she's wearing a dress.
Yeah, bro. So
you get those that. like perfectly hold out jeans. Yeah. It's like, oh, this is a bad decision. I'm cold. Yeah. Too many holes.
So the hotel idea, I think you guys will have a good time. That's a good call.
Good. So you guys are all doing it family.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably end up going to my parents or something. You know, like I'm not going to talk too much because it's going to be real boring what I'm going to explain. So I'm gonna hang out with my kids and get them real tired.
Now, do you get smashed?
bed.
Do you get smashed with your parent, like at your parents' house, or do you abstain from doing that?
Yeah, dude. So no, like this year, even for Christmas, like Courtney and I snuck in a bottle of Crown, like in the refrigerator, and like I was like all sneaky about it. It's still that like weird vibe that they don't drink, but they know I do, and so they try to pretend that it's like cool. And so my dad will have like hard Mike's in there, Mike's Hard Lemonades, and I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking drink Mike's Hard Lemonade. Are you shitting me with this?
That's like Zima.
Give me some whiskey, you know, like, so they just don't get it, you know. So it's like not like a crowd where I'm not that guy that's going to sit there and drink by myself either, you know. So it's like it's just not good.
Did you guys see the skinny dipped order that came in for us? All the boxes.
I already ate some.
I fucking stole.
Dude, I'm taking some on my way out.
Oh, I already stole a bunch for that was Christmas gifts for Hellick family members, dude. It was so great.
That's so rad. I did that too in the stockings. Perfect.
It was a great gift for that.
Dude, my kids love the skinny dipped almonds, and I don't feel bad giving it to them like I do with the other stuff. You know what I
I'm
mean?
seeing them all over the place too. I saw it at like a CVS, and I'm like, oh wow, skinny dip, yeah.
No, they're in a bunch of stores.
They're
now.
going super mainstream.
Yeah.
They're very, very popular. They've hit on something I think very smart with the way that they put together, you know, and the macros are really good.
Yeah.
So
no, it made a really good Christmas gift. So shout out to Skinny Dipped. Much love for sending that box over before Christmas because that.
Now, how are you giving that?
Man.
How are you giving it to people? You just giving them a whole box?
Yeah, a whole box. I just wrapped that shit. You know what I'm saying? That's a cool gift. You know what I'm saying? That's a cool gift.
Speaking of
little packets.
Speaking of Christmas gifts, so this year it was anticipated that they were going to sell a shit ton of these genetic information type tests like 23andMe, right?
Yeah.
I read there was a whole article on how it was like a big gift this year that people were buying for each other.
Oh, weird.
And so it's huge, right? People are buying them like crazy. And scientists and psychologists are wondering if the perception of genetic risks could actually increase people's risks because of how powerful the placebo effect can be. So they're getting worried that people are going to get these tests.
Oh, wow.
See that they have a predisposition for
Become like hypochondriacs about it?
well, and it may in fact be like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so they actually did a study where they recruited a couple hundred subjects and they put them in a personal health study. And they were told that they would have genetic profiles done and all that, and you know what would be the best diets and exercise programs for them. And they told some of these people that they had, you know, genetic, they had some predispositions or whatever. And these people definitely felt a lot worse. It definitely caused a lot of health problems because they were told.
So wait, do they call that the nocebo effect? Because it's different than placebo, right?
No, so the nocebo effect would be where you're told you're not going to have something, and so then that changes how you feel.
I thought it was like you put a hex on somebody, right? Like it's like the curse thing. Like it's a real thing. Like it's a phenomenon. People like it actually like sort of fulfills that prophecy where it's like people like believe it so much to where like they get the physical ailments as a result.
Well, check this one out. So I'll read part of this study. So the researchers did another experiment where they told some of these subjects that they had a genetic risk factor for obesity. So they told them that they had a protective phenotype. So some of these people, they said, hey, you have this protective phenotype for obesity. And these people who were told that got fuller after eating the same meal they had been fed the previous week. So in that case, the perceived genetic risk, the fact that they thought that they had this protective effect actually had them eat a little bit less, which is kind of interesting.
Huh.
So it's just the psychological effects of these tests, nobody's studying. You know, and it's one of those situations where sometimes more information might not be a good idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's going to change. Well, think about it. Like,
focal point's going to completely change.
Yeah, like, I imagine if you were told you have this, okay, your risk for Alzheimer's is 10 times higher than the, next person's. It might freak you out enough to cause some issues. So it's kind of interesting, right?
It is interesting, yeah.
You know what else
the unintended consequence.
You know what else is very interesting to me? And I'm sure no one's going to like hearing this on holidays. Nobody wants to hear about politics, but I find it very fascinating that GoFundMe account.
Oh my God, brilliant.
Bro, you see where it's at?
What's it at right now?
Where's that now?
17 million.
Wow. Can I tell you what I love about that? I don't care what the
He's like still adamant about this wall.
You know, I don't care what people think about building a wall to prevent or to reduce illegal immigration, whatever. That's a separate debate. That's not what I'm talking about. So we can have that discussion, but that's a separate debate. What I love about what's happening with this GoFundMe is that they believe in something and they're voluntarily giving their money to support it. And I will support that shit all day long over taxes, because taxes are forced. I'm forced to pay into something that I may not believe in. But if a bunch of fucking people want to pay for a wall to get built, and it's funded by them, that makes me feel a lot better than me having to be forced to pay for something that I don't believe
in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? $17 million.
$17 million.
It's interesting, that many people. Yeah, I mean, obviously they want that to happen. Like they're showing it with their dollars, so it's interesting to see that.
I want to see more stuff like that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I wish everything.
That'd be great if politics moved based off of that, right? Like these policies, like we just put our money in that direction. It's like, okay, when you see it happen.
It would be cool if that, and I know we could never make the full transition of where it was like this, but even if like a portion, like instead of paying X amount % of taxes every single year, 5 or 10%.
Like some of it was discretionary.
Yeah, exactly. 5 or 10% of that is like flexed. It's got to go somewhere, and then it's up to you to choose, wherever it goes. You know, like, and you would have all these different options that you could put your money towards. I would love to see something like that. I think it would just empower the people. I think it would force more people to do research and know what's going on and where your money's going, and it
would definitely. I think it would increase transparency too, because once people choose where the money goes, they're going to want to see.
Yeah.
All right, what's happening with that money?
I think in here, that's what people really want at the end of the day. I mean, they just want to know that. Obviously, like if you're paying taxes, everybody's paying taxes. We get it. Like we need to allocate our money in certain directions to really, build these things. Make sure infrastructure, all this stuff's accounted for. But like, let's see exactly where this all goes. Like that would make everybody feel better.
I think they don't want that to happen, because I think if people really saw how much money was wasted,
right,
it would be it would change
checks and balances. I mean, that's what we need.
Yeah, no, because government's so inefficient with money. Part of it is because people could say greed and inept people running things, but a big part of it is government just doesn't respond. It doesn't respond to the same signals that the market does, because it's not the market. So if I start a business and I'm not profiting, first of all, profit is a very wonderful signal. It tells you that you're doing something right. You're doing something right. If I'm not profiting, I'm not going to last very long. If government doesn't get what if government promises something and we give them $50 billion for it and we don't get that thing that we're promised, that is an argument for them to ask for more money. Then they'll say, "Well, it's because we didn't get enough money." Whereas in the private market, you fucking make it happen, or you don't get that money. Someone else, we're gonna have someone else try this
failed.
out.
Yeah. So you've been checked on like how you've used that money too. It's like there needs to be that sort of a balance to that, so they actually do it diligently and they get the job done.
I was watching this one documentary a long time ago where there was I forgot where it was. This woman got elected to be superintendent of this district or whatever. And she was going through the schools and she was finding how, my God, some teachers had to buy textbooks and pencils for the kids, and some teachers had. Then she went to this warehouse that apparently stored a lot of these public schools, what are they called? Tools, like pencils and whatever. And she's like, I found all these textbooks and pencils. She's like, it was just run so terribly that we actually had a lot of the supplies that we needed, but people weren't getting them. She's like, it's so much waste and so much waste that goes into bureaucracy. Like let's say, $10 comes from Adam to go towards paying for welfare and helping people. How much of that money actually is spent on just the bureaucracy that puts that together and administers it and all that shit? Like how much of your money is actually getting to somebody, Right. So I love this GoFundMe account thing is hilarious.
No, I had to bring it up.
It is interesting.
And it's not that I'm on one side or the other. It's more just I find that interesting. Like that's pretty wild to me that somebody actually, and because it wasn't Trump who started that, somebody else started that GoFundMe account towards that. And to see over 250,000 people, I think it's at 280-something thousand people rally behind it and put their money towards it, and to accumulate to over $17 million, and it's what, 9 days in? You're not even halfway through the 30-day process.
That's pretty crazy.
That's
pretty crazy.
Way crazy.
Did you guys? So this was a study that got published December 21st, so it was recently, that scientists in Germany found that statins reduce beneficial brown adipose tissue, or brown fat. Now, you guys are familiar with brown fat, right?
Uh-huh.
Brown fat is, for the listeners who don't know, it's a type of fat that's very metabolically active and actually burns calories. It burns calories in the form of heat. And having a lot of brown fat usually means that you have a faster metabolism and you're leaner. And your fat can actually, some of it can turn into more brown fat. And there's certain things you could do with your lifestyle that'll help do that. Part of that is exercise, and cold and hot temperature contrast can seem to help that, and how you eat your diet and all that stuff. But they're finding that taking statins reduces beneficial brown fat. So in other words, taking statins, which are cholesterol lowering drugs, which have their own other issues that can not be good, that may actually reduce the body's ability to be lean. It may actually, in fact, make you less healthy through the process of converting.
It's amazing how science comes out with something that is designed to help us with something, and then we find out years later always that, by the way, it shuts this down.
We had a balancing system in place for that. Yeah.
Well, part of the problem is we think that that just having a lot of cholesterol in your blood is a bad thing, and to some extent that's true if it's super, super high. But what they didn't do is say, well, what is causing this to happen? Instead, they said, let's just make the cholesterol lower. Mm-hmm. And so statins go in and they work through reducing the amount of cholesterol the liver produces. So it does lower your numbers. You take a statin, you'll have lower cholesterol.
It's just ironic to me that we focus on one part, yet we understand the body has all these complex systems that work together. But in medicine, we tend to treat that single system, that single issue, without thinking like, could this have effect on the other 8 or 9 systems that are running, synergistically with this one? Like, it just doesn't get talked about until shit comes up.
Yeah, it's the number. They're just trying to reduce the number.
It's the strength and weakness of Western medicine. The strength of Western medicine is its ability to segment out parts of the human body and to study them in great, great detail, like the hormone system, the nervous system, the digestive system, your brain, psychology. Like they can take them out and study them, but the strength is also its weakness because it doesn't integrate them. It doesn't realize that they're all connected. I was having a conversation on Christmas with one of my family members about this, and we were all talking about the effect that mindset has on your health. And the first argument was, well, if your mindset's a particular way, it's going to affect how you exercise, it's going to affect how you eat. And yes, that's also true, but just your mindset alone, independent of those things, can also affect your health. And I was trying to explain to them, like, we forget that the human organism is a whole organism, and you affect one thing, it affects the others, and vice versa.
Right. So
it's one big thing, and you cannot. Just like I just talked about earlier with the genetic testing, we can't just say, oh, cool, if we give people more information and tell them that they're more or less predisposed for things, that's going to be all good, because we're completely negating the psychological effect. What could happen if you tell somebody that they're predisposed to diabetes? They may think to themselves, two things may happen, and I'm sure there's a lot of possibilities, but two obvious ones to me are either A, oh my God, I'm predisposed to diabetes, I better start eating right and exercising, or B, I'm fucked no matter what I do.
Fuck it. Yeah, that's my crutch now.
Now I'm just going to go, do whatever and just get on medication and
you usually see one or the other.
Right. Yeah. So we forget about all that stuff and how important it is to consider the entire organism. It took me a long time to realize that as a trainer. Yeah. It took me a long time. I would say it probably took me 12 years.
Because it's easier to simplify it. And that's just at the end of the day, like you're trying to just narrow into one thing and focus.
We're also educated that way.
Yeah,
we're also educated this way. For the longest time, like my idea of like holistic health was so woo woo. Like, it's not. I'm not. When someone says like, oh, you do this and it affects that, and it's like, oh, that sounds woo woo to me. But my idea and definition of holistic health is so different now. I mean, I've been able to separate that the woo side of it and just understand the fact of the matter is you do anything to the body, to any single system, and there is always a cause and effect to the other ones.
There's a ripple effect.
Doesn't necessarily mean it's always a negative one and it's bad, but to completely just not think about or take into consideration the other things that are happening in the rest of the body by trying to acutely solve this one problem in one system is absolutely moronic. It's stupid to do that and not think about that. And I don't know. I feel like we're going to start hearing more and more of that, because when I first started in health and fitness, there really was this major division of like this Western medicine and then this hippie holistic side of it. And it's really, it doesn't need to be so drastically different. There's lots of things that you can take from both sides and learn to understand how to integrate them versus, it's either or,
Well, yeah, and all of our problems now are these chronic issues, and the way that we've been treating just isn't working.
Yeah.
We have to integrate. We have to consider all the different systems in order to, address these problems that aren't going away. So, it's like we have to get better at incorporating more trains of thought into the conversation.
Yeah, I remember when I would train people earlier in my career, I'd look at somebody, and the things I would consider would be your fitness level, your mobility, muscle imbalances, and your goal. And that's it. So, cool, you're coming in today, you want to burn fat, cool, we're going to burn calories. The intensity is going to be pretty high. I'm going to work you out pretty hard, and then you're good. Later on in my career, I started to realize, I got to consider way more than that. I have to look at, okay, are you getting good sleep? Do you have a stressful life? You may have a good fitness level, but your stress level is so high that I can't train you that hard because I'm just going to shut your body down. It's not going to work. I used to never have to consider that at all. I never even thought of that. And I became so much more effective later on when I started to realize, I'd have these high-performing executives that would come in and want me to beat them up. But then I started to realize your stress is high, you're go, go, go all the time. You're going to actually feel much better and get better results if we take this approach over here, which is a little bit lower of an intensity. I'm going to take you through more mobility stuff. Sometimes I'm not even going to train you with particular exercise. Sometimes all we're going to do is this kind of yin stretching mobility type of work. And then lo and behold, people's progress became more consistent. They stayed with me much longer, and I made much more of a long-lasting impact on the person's health in a positive way. But it took me a long time to really put that together. It took me at least 10 or 12 years. So.
Eagle has landed.
Today's Quah is brought to you by MAPS Anabolic. If you're looking to maximize your overall muscle and strength, MAPS Anabolic is the perfect place to start. With a full 30-day money-back guarantee, there is absolutely zero risk. So what are you waiting for? Go to mindpumpmedia.com and get started today.
It's the motherfucking Quah.
Eagle has landed.
Quah.
Our first question is from Carolina C. Jorge. Why do I feel like I am addicted to really high-intensity exercise to the point where I can't function without doing a tiny bit of HIIT every morning? I can't get the same feeling lifting weights, and I know it might be messing up my metabolism. Any tips?
You definitely are.
You're not alone.
Yeah, you definitely are.
A lot of people are like this.
Yeah, high-intensity exercise is a very addictive form of exercise for a few different reasons, but one of them is it raises cortisol. Whenever you push your body and stress it out, you get a spike in cortisol. Now, some people say, well, why?
That's a feel-good hormone.
That's very feel-good. Years ago, I used to train a lot of doctors and surgeons because my gym was next to a hospital. And I remember one of my clients, who was a 65-year-old surgeon, and he was taking prednisone for something. I don't remember why he was taking it. And he was coming in and fucking, he was so strong. He was feeling so good and so energetic. And I'm like, man, you got a lot of energy. And he's like, yeah, it's this prednisone that I'm taking. And I'm like, that's a corticosteroid, right? Which kind of acts in similar ways to cortisol. It's different, but it kind of acts similar. He goes, yeah, one of the side effects of these corticosteroids is you feel energetic and hyper, and you don't feel that you need that much sleep, and it feels real good. He goes, I know it's bad for me, and I got to go off of it, but it feels really good. And he explained to me how cortisol, this is how I started to learn this, how cortisol is kind of this feel-good hormone. In the morning when you wake up, cortisol is naturally supposed to spike. Mm-hmm. And that's what gets you up. It's what wakes you up. It's what gives you energy. And I know we all talk about cortisol like it's this evil hormone. You should never, you want no cortisol, which is bullshit. You need normal, healthy amounts of cortisol, and you want it to be up in the morning. You want it to drop at night so you can sleep. But it's the hormone that makes you feel good. It's one of the reasons why you have a lot of energy when you fast too. When I'm fasting for long periods of time and I'm feeling energetic, part of the reason is cortisol tends to be elevated with fasting. Again, not a bad thing unless you have other issues with cortisol, but that's why you might be feeling addicted. And if you're having issues because consider this, okay, just like you can get insulin insensitive to where your insulin's constantly up because you eat a high sugar diet or your diet's very unhealthy, where your body starts to become desensitized to insulin, where its receptors for insulin start to downregulate. So now you need more and more insulin to give you the same effect, which eventually can turn into diabetes. This can happen with other hormones as well, including cortisol. And what might happen, and this might not be what's happening with you, but it also might be, where you're either your high stress life, you drink a lot of coffee, you're taking lots of stimulants, don't get a lot of sleep, your cortisol levels are constantly elevated, your body's downregulating its receptors, you're not responding to the same amounts of cortisol anymore. So now you need to find activities that raise cortisol even higher just to make you feel normal, which includes this crazy, high intensity type workout. Like as a trainer, the clients that I had that were the hardest to peel away from high intensity exercise were my go-getter type A personality clients who didn't need it. It was the worst form of exercise.
I get a lot of flack in my DMs and stuff about some of these rants that I go on every now and then, and this is one that I've ranted about more than once on this show. And the reason why that is not because HIIT training is bad. I fucking understand the science. I completely see the value of it. I utilize it as a tool myself.
We have a HIIT program.
Right. I completely understand that. So when people fire back and respond to me, it's not that I don't understand the science, that I don't think that it's a useful tool. It's just that when you've been doing this for as long as all of us in here have been doing it, you tend to see patterns. And what I've seen in my 15 plus years of training people is over 90% of the people that gravitate towards this way of training are the ones that should not be doing it. It's not the person that needs more of it in their life. It's not the person that's really sedentary. It's the type A go-getter personality that loves the push and drive, the ones that are already addicted to that rush because that's how they run their life. They hammer it at work, their high-stress job, they're constantly on the go, and then they also want to train with that same mentality. And those are the people that need more meditation in their life. Those are the people that need more walks in their life. They are not the people that need HIIT training. The HIIT training people are the people that don't do shit, that don't ever move, that need a little bit of that oomph every now and then. And honestly, those aren't the people that gravitate towards it. They avoid it like the plague. They're over there fucking meditating all the time. And so when we go on these rants, or when I go on these rants about HIIT training or the orange theories and the CrossFit type of mentality, it's because the people that gravitate towards it, a majority of them are the ones that shouldn't be doing it for these reasons.
Yeah, and I think too, the feeling that you're not getting resistance training, I don't necessarily, and I might challenge as far as like the length of time that you've given that to develop. Because I know, like for myself, there's certain styles and modalities that I tend to gravitate towards the most. But the overall benefits of going through the process of it takes time, and it takes time for you to really feel, the difference it makes for you to rest and have these applied rest periods and reap the benefits of legit strength training, and that being your focus versus seeking that feeling you're getting from these HIIT style training sessions. So, it's tough, man. It's tough to do something you don't necessarily, your body, you might not feel it initially, and you have to really train your body to gravitate more into that direction because it's better for you right now, and that other style training really isn't benefiting you the same way.
Well, you need to train your mind first.
The mind, yes.
Because you've already made a bad connection with exercise. You've made this connection that you're seeking this feeling that HIIT gives you, which is not the ideal feeling. Like, you don't want to lift weights traditionally and feel the same way that you feel from HIIT. You're not chasing that feeling all the time. that feeling of, oh, I just accomplished something, and oh, I got this great sweat. Oh, that adrenaline rush afterwards. Like, that's the fucking reason why that feels so good.
Well, look at the language that she uses. I can't function without doing a tiny bit of HIIT every morning. It's her little cortisol.
Yeah, it's adrenaline junkie. You're chasing the high.
It is, and I'm going to create an avatar. This is a stereotype. So this might not be her who's asking this question, but this is a stereotype that's actually quite common. A person like this is typically drinks a lot of coffee, a lot of stimulants, has a type of a job that's high stress. When they do work out, it's balls to the wall, sweat my ass off, hammer myself type workouts. Also consumes lots of sugar or goes on binging when they do eat. So they'll eat pretty strict and then they'll go off and eat a lot of sugar. And also tends to be late to appointments. Now that last part sounds funny, but it's actually a behavior. True. It's actually a behavior that, here's what's happening.
It's a rush.
Yes. People don't realize this. When your body is trying to get something, it'll actually motivate you to do behaviors that actually produce the so being late to appointments is a stressful event and it causes cortisol to raise. And so people are like, why are you always constantly late? Well, probably because it gives you a little bit of a cortisol rush. You don't realize it and you think to yourself, gosh, I wish I wasn't late all the time.
Right.
But how many times have you had this exact client?
Crazy. It's self-sabotaging. You don't even realize it's happening.
The avatar I just created, you can't. How many times have you seen those people?
I've seen a lot of them.
Most of them are the ones taking these classes.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's why
they show up 10 minutes late to their session.
Yeah,
they're fucking.
They could literally come in the door right before the class is about to start.
Okay, what are we doing?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Hurry up, let's go.
Crank the music.
I don't want to rest.
Yeah, crank the music. Let's go. Let's get this sweat. Fuck yeah, that felt good.
Yep. And then you have to drink wine to calm down at night.
And then we're high-fiving and celebrating afterwards. Yeah. Meanwhile, we're doing one of the worst things that we could probably do for this person's body is we're just slowing this metabolism down and making it more challenging.
This produces a skinny fat physique. You tend to lose muscle, and your body wants to hold on to body fat. Now, if you continue down this path over time, you will really have a tough time with your HPA axis, your hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal, and you can throw in your thyroid in there as well, axis. As those hormones try to compensate for each other, things get so out of balance that you can start to develop anxiety disorders, depressions, or get crushing chronic fatigue, which is very nasty. So
now, would you use any supplements to like help somebody like this? Like anything?
Well, I'm going to give some tips here. So first and foremost, you're going to need to slowly reduce your stimulant intake. So if you are drinking caffeine, wean yourself off that caffeine. It's going to be about a 4 to 6 week period where it's going to be tough, but slowly wean it. And the way I like to wean it is I go a quarter off. I'll have my clients look at their total caffeine intake. So let's say they're taking in 400 milligrams a day. I have them reduce it by a quarter. They do that for between 1 to 2 weeks. Then they reduce it a quarter, 1 to 2 weeks. Then they reduce it a quarter, 1 to 2 weeks. Then they go off. And so I'll do this kind of step ladder type of thing. During that process, I'll have them consume an adaptogenic herb of some type. Now, my favorite,
ashwagandha or something like that.
Well, my favorite for this type of an individual is cordyceps.
Okay.
So Four Sigmatic makes the best cordyceps that I've ever seen on the market. Just that they have a dual extraction process that gets. When you look at the way that Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine uses mushrooms, for example. There's applications for a cold extraction and a hot extraction.
Now, do you use this in replace of the coffee or any time during the day? Like, what's the protocol?
You take this with your coffee and then slowly remove the coffee.
Okay.
And what cordyceps helps to do is it helps to balance out your cortisol production and your other hormones in your body. Because what you're trying to do is mitigate that going off the coffee and getting off the HIIT crash that you're inevitably going to feel. And cordyceps helps a lot with it. So what I would do in the morning with this person, reduce the caffeine, start taking cordyceps with the coffee in the morning, get off the HIIT training, start doing traditional resistance training, followed by some static stretching. Give yourself 10 to 15 minutes of static stretching at the end. It's a very yin, kind of relaxing, parasympathetic.
Slow grinding workouts for this person.
Yeah, slow weights.
5 reps, rest periods in between, strength train.
That's it. And then as far as nutrition is concerned, I wouldn't go too extreme in any direction. So I wouldn't say cut all your carbs or lower your fat. I would say stay away from heavily processed foods. Stay away from stimulating foods. Sugar and spicy food tends to be stimulating. kind of eat more on the bland side, eat more healthy fats, and give yourself between 1 to, I hate to say it, 6 months for your body to balance itself out. The cordyceps will help a lot, the diet will help a lot, and the workout will help a lot. All on their own, they don't do a whole lot. Do them all together, and you'll start to get a good effect. And then the last thing I'd say is when the sun goes down, first off, invest in a really, really good pair of blue blocking glasses. Put those on when the sun goes down. Studies are now showing that melatonin production increases tremendously when people reduce their exposure to blue light at least a couple hours before bed. And that'll help with your cortisol regulation because melatonin increases, you sleep better, then cortisol will rise in the morning naturally. And hopefully after doing this for a certain period of time, you'll have the energy in the morning that you used to feel with HIIT that now will happen naturally.
Next question is from Like a Stranger. Do you guys think there will be a backlash in the distant future when it comes to coffee consumption and caffeine's true effects on one's health? Would it ever become a banned substance and labeled as a drug?
Oh, this is an interesting question.
Yeah. I'll say no to the second part, but to the first part, yes, 100%. We will see a big backlash on caffeine, mainly because it's so accepted now. Coffee is so accepted. It's to the point now where kids go to Starbucks and
I think that's really the alarming part is seeing how young now kids are drinking coffee and versions of it that, in milkshake form or whatever, we're providing these kids to get really indoctrinated into the caffeine ritual process. And it is a drug at the end of the day. And I very much recognize that and what that can kind of ramp up towards, and going through the process now of even trying to reduce the amount is a struggle and it's difficult. And I saw that the other day when I was at a Starbucks, I think, and just the amount of kids and under teenage kids that were in there and drinking coffees or mochas or whatever it was. I was just like astonished. But then again, it makes sense.
Dude,
I don't know if we're going to see a backlash. I don't know if I think that I think more and more science will come out to support, just like the question we just answered right before this, and I think we'll be able to connect these people that maybe shouldn't be having 600, 1,000 milligrams of caffeine a day because it's not ideal for their metabolism. But as far as a backlash, I don't know if it'll like enough to drive Starbucks fucking sales down. Like, I don't know. I don't think so.
That's a different. I think that's a different question. That's a good one that you bring up though. As far as will it lower Starbucks? Once Starbucks becomes McDonald's, then maybe the sales will drop. It's still cool, but remember at one point McDonald's was really cool, and then it wasn't cool, and then it was cool again.
No, that's what I'm speculating on. Is I don't know if it'll ever become like McDonald's. I don't know if it will be demonized that bad enough to where it would actually potentially hurt sales. I just don't know if I see that. I see it still on this crazy rise.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like there's also, the energy drink sort of phenomenon with kids too is another thing where I don't know statistically whether or not kids are more prone to drinking coffee versus like those energy drinks or not, but I would actually be more concerned with those energy drinks.
Yeah, the energy drinks are flavored a particular way, and they definitely would, like cotton candy, Bang or whatever, or, Monster, grape drink or whatever. Here's the thing with caffeine. Its negative effects are very insidious, and they creep up on you. So let me explain how this works. You first start drinking coffee and you feel amazing. You feel energetic. Caffeine has an antidepressant effect. You feel happy. You feel motivated. You're productive. You can deal with your kids. You could deal with your spouse. You could deal with work and traffic. You're having a great time. And so you start drinking it every single day. But like any substance that has a powerful physiological effect on the body, which caffeine definitely has, the body starts to adapt, receptors start to downregulate, your body starts to produce different chemicals to balance it out. And what you end up getting over time is less and less positive effects and more negative effects. But because it's so insidious, it's hard. You don't start to connect the two. So what ends up happening, one of the biggest side effects of too much caffeine is anxiety. And a lot of people have anxiety nowadays, and a lot of people don't realize that a lot of their anxiety is because they're drinking coffee every single day. They don't realize that. In fact, you look, I'll tell you, Jessica and I have recently dramatically reduced and almost eliminated caffeine from our diets. Just because we had this conversation a while ago and we're both like, it's a good idea to go off anything for a while. And caffeine's, by the way, one of the most addictive substances I've ever had to try. I stopped smoking cannabis way easier than stopping caffeine. That was very difficult for me. But it's so funny because she was getting some of these anxious side effects. I was getting some anxious side effects. It's hard to put your finger on them until they're gone. Now that I haven't had caffeine for a little while, I'm like, oh shit, I was getting anxiety. I didn't realize it because I was having fucking coffee or caffeine every single day. And I didn't realize it until I went off. Look at kids nowadays, anxiety through the roof. Now, I think there's other causes to it, but I think part of it is they're the most caffeinated generation of kids ever. Do you guys remember anybody in high school drinking coffee? Nobody drank coffee in high school.
No, that was for old people
or
like old construction workers,
or even energy drinks.
Yeah.
The first pre-workouts that I can remember in the supplement world, or Ultimate Orange was one of the first ones, but that was like a hardcore bodybuilder one. Then it was, the ephedra stack kind of came out, and that was a little later. But again, it was still kind of hardcore. Today, it's super mainstream. Before you work out, you have an energy drink. Super mainstream. When we were working out back in the day, nobody had. When did people get caffeine? They got a little bit from drinking Coke.
Yeah, well, there was always the legend of like those Jolt Colas or like the extreme versions, but it was always like, like a dare.
How much caffeine is in a Jolt?
Legend. It's just that it was double of what a Coke is, 50 milligrams.
Yeah, it's like 50 to 70 milligrams.
So a Jolt was like a cup of coffee.
That's it.
And so if you had one as a kid, it was like insane.
Actually,
but it really
wasn't even. It was lower than a cup of coffee.
Yeah. That's all that was in there.
Yeah,
That's
it's only like 50 milligrams.
50 or 70 or something like that.
Yeah,
it was sold like it was like the most extreme thing ever.
It is compared to Coke. Like it's like double.
Coke's like 20, I think, milligrams.
Yeah, it's something like that. Like it's not that crazy actually. But I mean, imagine if you're someone who's never had coffee.
That's right. No,
and you have a Jolt. It's like holy shit.
I think we're super over caffeinated, and I think people are. You're seeing sleep issues. You're seeing anxiety because caffeine has got some benefits as well, but it depends on the context. First off, it depends on the person's body. Your liver's ability to get rid of caffeine and process it is highly individual. Some people have a very fast ability to do it, and some people have a slow ability to do it. I'm one of the people that has a slow ability to do it, but I've identified that. A lot of people don't necessarily know that. Then the rest of your life also plays a role. Like, are you under a lot of stress normally? Like, is life fucking hard right now? Probably not the best time to pound a bunch of coffee and throw it, fuel to that fire. How is your sleep? Age plays, a role in this. So there's a lot of things that we need to consider that we don't even consider now. Coffee is just so whatever.
Well, I think too, and I know, like, I'm sure, like before Prohibition, like coffee consumption was probably a lot lower, but I'm thinking, we always have to have with alcohol being a depressant, like having to have a stimulant in the morning, like you have to, like, it's almost like you need that balance if you're going to have this sort of a lifestyle where it's like after work I go get my alcohol and then I help to kind of wind down, but then in the morning I got to have this to kind of catapult me, in the beginning of my day, and then kind of it just turns into this structure of like, this is how my day just looks.
Well, Starbucks was created by the founders, I believe. Didn't one of the founders start Peet's Coffee? Didn't they split off, and then one of them started Peet's afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay. But I know they got the idea because they were in Italy, right? They were in Italy and they saw the craft that went into coffee and the art behind it, and they thought, wow, this would probably do good in the U.S., and so Italy is known for having, a kind of a coffee culture. But when you go to Italy and you order an espresso, they give you this much. It's a small amount. It's definitely strong and thick and all that stuff, but it's a small amount of espresso. I get an espresso here, and it's like it would be considered a double or triple over there. They do drink coffee, but they don't drink cups of it. Like here, you go and get a grande whatever. It's like 300-something milligrams of caffeine. It's a big-ass coffee that you're drinking. It's not as strong as an espresso ounce per ounce, but because you're drinking so much of it, you're getting a whole lot of it. Then, of course, here, American style, what do we do to everything? We turn it into a sugar processed bomb of a bunch of other shit. So now you're not just drinking 300 milligrams of caffeine. You're having an additional 70 grams of sugar in there. That's a recipe for disaster, if you ask me, especially when you throw it on top of a stressful life. I think there's going to be a backlash for sure. I don't think it's going to be banned or people are going to be, so against it that nobody has it. I just think with like we always talk about, the pendulum swings so hard, I think it's going to come back down to where people start drinking
Well, I
less.
think we're still on the rise. That's why, I don't know if there's a backlash. I think it slows down. I think it's slow. Eventually we kind of wake up a little bit and go like, oh, maybe all these energy drinks and caffeine
could be contributing to all this anxiety, to all this like excess stress I'm experiencing.
It'll be interesting to watch Starbucks and just see if
their sales.
Sales, and if it continues to grow. I mean, they're a great way for us to keep a pulse on that.
Here's what motivates me. So if you're listening right now and you're like, you have a tough time with getting rid of your coffee or whatever, or reducing it, here's what motivates me. I love the effect of substances. I love taking things and feeling them. It's one of my favorite things in the world. That's why I always, when we go to fitness conventions, I'll go up and down the aisles and just take supplements because I like to feel something and experience how it may be working. And I love the effects of caffeine. It's my favorite drug in the world to use.
It works.
It's a great feeling, but that great feeling I lose when I use
diminishes it
too consistently.
Yeah, it's just like the weed thing. We talked about this just the other day. Part of what makes cannabis so amazing is when you intermittently use it versus using it all the time.
So I remind myself of that. So I go off the caffeine so that I have it and I can use it and get the euphoria, the motivation for it when I need it. And so that's what motivates me. So if you're listening right now and you're having a tough time, just remind yourself that when you go off of it and then go on a little bit again, you're going to have a quarter of what you used before and feel way better.
Next question is from Constantine MB. How can you overcome the mental side of fat gain while bulking?
Did you happen to look at this person's profile?
No.
No. Because how I answer this, I feel like it'd be...
Depends on the person.
Yeah, because some people have this... like body dysmorphia where they just they're freaked out of putting any body fat on whatsoever, and the way I answer this question to that person is probably different than to somebody who may be actually adding too much fat as they bulk, because there's this myth that you need to put on all this weight on the scale in order to be on a bulk and build muscle.
Oh, see, this guy's lean.
Yeah,
this guy's really lean.
And he's young.
Yeah, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the mental hurdle I had to get over when I would cut. Because that was the opposite, right? I was always trying to bulk, always trying to get bigger. I was a skinny kid and I never tried to get really, really lean. And if I ever even attempted to, it was difficult because I would notice all of a sudden I looked smaller and it would freak me out and I'd reverse, direction and start bulking again.
Right.
And the way I got around, and then I got weaker. That was another difficult one. Oh my God, I'm not as strong as I normally am. So the way I got around it was I had to focus on other things. So I couldn't focus on size anymore. I had to focus more on definition. So I started wearing tank tops. I started paying attention to, the striations on my shoulders. I stopped weighing myself. I started focusing on different things to get my mind off the fact that I was getting smaller. And then what it did is allowed me to get really, really lean. And then I kind of got over that feeling of being afraid and I was okay with it. When I have clients who are afraid of bulking, it's usually these people who are afraid of gaining even a single pound of body fat. And the strategy that I've used in the past is I've gotten them to focus on strength. So I don't let them weigh themselves. Don't weigh yourself on the scale. I want you to wear long sleeve shirts and stuff when we work out. We're not going to look in the mirror when we lift. I just want we're going to look at the numbers that you're lifting in the gym. And is your squat going up? Is your deadlift going up? Is your bench press going up? Then it's a success. And that helps people kind of get over that whole like, I'm gaining weight,
Well, the other thing too is to understand the science of it, right? So when you go into a bulk, that means we're in a surplus of calories. Typically, a lot of those calories too are going to increase sodium, increase carbohydrates. If you're doing that, your body's going to hold on to more water. And initially what happens when you go into this surplus, and especially if you're staying in a surplus to bulk, you're going to have this layer of water that your body is now holding that looks kind of like fat. Like, so when you just look at the mirror, or if you get on the scale, you'll see the scale jump up a couple pounds. You'll feel softer. You won't look as defined and lean and ripped like this young guy looks right now. So it kind of mentally fucks with you. So my advice always is to stay off the scale. I don't need to use that as an indicator. And what Sal said is true, is I'm looking at strength. I know that if I'm in this bulk and I'm watching my strength go up. We're building muscle. It's happening. Like that's one of your best indicators that you probably are putting on good lean body mass, and not worry so much about the way you look in the mirror or what the scale is reading. But don't be afraid to look a little softer, because of the simple fact that you are going to be retaining more water, and more water, you holding on to more water will give you that kind of smooth appearance. It doesn't mean that you put 4 pounds of fat on. In fact, somebody that's really lean, like this young kid who's 17 and shredded, you probably have a harder time putting on a bunch of weight than you think, and you're not going to put 5-10 pounds of fat on, just by living in a surplus for a few weeks. I promise you that.
Yeah, I would say embrace the changes that the new diet is going to bring. So the changes include the strength. The changes include feeling stable with a weight on your back. Like, embrace those types of changes. And for women, the other thing too, I've gotten clients to do this as well. I'll have them focus on strength, but then the women will start to embrace their curves a little bit. So I've actually had female clients tell me, a lot of these are women who are afraid of gaining any weight, right? And I'll tell them, look, we're going to go on a calorie surplus. We're going to focus on strength. And then they'll start telling me, like, you know what? I know I'm getting stronger. I feel good. I know my metabolism's getting faster. And I know I'm gaining a little bit of body fat, but I think I kind of like it. I like my feminine curves a little bit. That's what I mean by embracing the change. It's a difficult place to be in, because for people who are so afraid of gaining body fat, going in a surplus can be a very, very scary thing. Just like for people who are afraid of losing any size, it's so afraid of going in a deficit. But think of this as well. Here's the flip side of that. When you come out of this surplus and you try to get leaner again, if you do this the right way with a faster metabolism, you'll get leaner, faster, better than you've ever gotten before. Yep. I mean, staying in one state really reduces the benefits and the effects of that particular state. Like, because I was always bulking all the time, I really didn't get a lot of the benefits of what a bulk could bring me, because I was always bulking. So my body was adapted. It was used to it. Some of my best bulks came later on, after I had learned how to cut. Once I learned how to cut properly and I was okay with it, and I allowed my body to get smaller and get leaner, then I'd go on a bulk and it was like muscle just, came on my body, and it really blew me away. So think of that as well. That might help you out.
Next question is from M. Viegas PT. Are mini cuts and mini bulks considered yo-yo dieting, and will it create more fat cells per Lane Norton's theory?
No, it's totally different.
What Lane's talking about is
it's extreme.
Yeah, yo-yo dieting is not when you do a mini cut and a mini bulk.
No, the key here is mini.
Yeah.
Mini meaning let's say your maintenance calories is 2,000. A mini cut would be a 500 calorie deficit.
Differences.
Yeah, and
for a short period of time.
For a short period of time.
Yeah, no more than 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, and a mini bulk would be another 500 calories on top of that. And so you're just reaping the benefits of being in a deficit and being in a surplus. What Lane talks about with some of the studies that they're looking at are when people go from extreme dieting, so like pre-contest, going into a bodybuilding or physique or bikini contest, then coming out and binging. Mm-hmm. And the difference between those calorie intakes is
extreme, double. It's crazy.
Dude, Adam, this was obviously your world. Give me an example of like what a woman would go, like a terrible diet, right? Where it's extreme, going into a contest, and then the amount of calories they would eat coming out.
This is the norm. The norm would be, as a bikini competitor, coaches would have them anywhere, as I've seen, as low as like 1,000 calories and even less, to the highest you see maybe them at 1,500, and then post show the girls are getting 3,000 plus calories in a day because they're fucking starving. So you're talking about a double their intake afterwards. And what ends up happening is, a lot of times the first initial 2 days or so, even sometimes 3 days after the show, the body was so depleted that they feel great. Their muscle bellies fill all up, the energy levels go up, the strength goes up, they look great, and they feel fed. And so what ends up happening is they end up staying on that trail. Like, oh man, I feel great being fed again. It feels so awesome. And then they keep eating that way. And that just is not enough time for the body to adjust. You just got it adapted to eating 1,200 calories to 1,500 calories to all of a sudden give it this surplus of even 2,500, which is not crazy, but 2,500 compared to 12 or 1,500 is crazy. That's 1,000 plus calories. And maybe for a day it wouldn't be bad, or even 2, but to continue on that pace after being in an extreme cut, that's where you get you increase the fat sales when you do that, and that's what Lane is talking about.
Yeah, because according to these studies, what they're finding, these were in mouse models, but we think this probably happens in humans also, because the mice, they were starved, or they had very low calories. Then they would just let them binge. And because the body was in that state of low calorie for so long and thirsting for calories, and then it's given tons of calories, it's trying to increase its ability or its capacity to store those calories. Because animal, the bodies, animal bodies and human bodies, don't like to waste energy because food is hard to come by, right? For most of human civilization. So when you're eating all this food, your body wants to capture it, either as energy and use it for energy.
That's an evolutionary advantage.
Yes, or capture it. And if you have so many fat cells, one of the ways your body may adapt is actually increasing the number of fat cells so that it can capture more of these calories. And so you'll see these people will go into these shows, will cut and then binge, cut and binge, cut and binge. And over time, they just can't get lean like they used to. And they'll talk about burnout.
It's interesting to see how the body reacts, to like the extreme versions of stress. So obviously, famine is something that the body recognizes. And how do we overcome this external stress? I think too of like muscle hyperplasia, and how we deal with stress with muscular wise, and how we've actually have the ability to now build like excess amounts of like muscle cells.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And yo-yo dieting really refers not to a mini cut and mini bulk, but really to a mental state of extreme restriction and then binging.
Yeah.
It's more of a, I hate myself, I hate my body, I'm not going to eat, and then I can't take this anymore. Open the floodgates and eat everything.
Seesaw effect back and forth.
Yeah, and that's what it's referring to. If you mini cut and mini bulk properly, it's a healthy approach. It's me examining my nutrition. I mean, I do this all the time naturally. I don't track my food. I haven't tracked my food in a long time. I do this very naturally. I know how I feel, and I'll know that I need to eat a little bit more or I need to eat a little bit less. And if I were to track, you probably would see me go through 1-2 week periods of lower calories and then 1-2 week periods of higher calories. And it probably goes back and forth like that on a consistent basis, just based on my how I feel, my energy, my activity levels, my digestion. And so it's just a healthy approach. So because always eating at maintenance isn't also good for you. And there's benefits to eating more than you're burning sometimes. Most of them are performance benefits. And there's benefits to eating less than you're burning. A lot of that are longevity type benefits. So you have like fasting, for example, lots of longevity. But if you approach fasting from an unhealthy standpoint, you're just restricting. You're just you're on the other end of the yo-yo dieting type of thing. So a lot of it, I think, has to go do with the mental state as well. But mini cuts and mini bulks, that was a mind blower for me. I remember when I first started doing that, I started to notice that doing that, I was able to get the lean benefits of cutting without losing the strength in the muscle. And I was also able to go through this muscle building performance enhancing benefits of bulking without the excess body fat. And so rather than doing the old way where I would gain all this weight and then cut and I'd be left with a net 1 or 2 pounds of muscle or 0, I would get this kind of slow increase in muscle growth and slow improvement in strength that was way less stressful. I mean, let me tell you, going, dieting and bulking, that takes up a lot of time. Takes up a lot of time. It's a lot of stress.
This is why I like carb cycling a lot. I used to run like a 4-2 where I'd be like in a 4-day deficit, and then I'd feed for 2 days and then like a surplus / maintenance, and then go back in that. And that the feeling that you get from the workouts, the way my body would lean out, like I felt like I maintained strength even though a lot of those days I'm in a deficit. Like if you've never ran like a carb cycling type of a diet, I think it's really beneficial for a lot of people just to see what that's like, and it emulates what a kind of a mini cut, mini bulk would look like. I mean,
And that's basically higher carb days, lower carb days.
Yeah. And
Does the fat go down and up comparatively?
No, I let the lowering of the carbohydrates be the restricting of the calories. So I keep my fats at a very healthy level and balanced. Obviously, if where I got to be careful with the fats. If anything, I'm careful with them when I go on a high refeed of carbohydrates. So if I'm gonna do like a taper process for 4 days where I go, and let's just use hypothetical numbers because I've been all over the place with carbohydrates, 500 grams of carbs, and then I drop down to 350 and then 250 and then maybe 250 again, because back when I'm doing 500, 250 would be really low, 50% of it. And then my fats are staying consistent all the way through all 4 of those days. Now when I go to refeed again and I allow myself to have 500 plus grams of carbohydrates, I got to be careful not to also overconsume on the fats because I'm getting such a high surplus of the carbohydrates. But it emulates what we're talking about. So if you're interested in trying that and actually applying it for a while, I think that going through like a carb cycling type of a diet kind of gives you that feeling, like, and it's structured. I think a lot of people just aren't in a place like yourself who can feel when their body needs to reduce or increase. I think that's a very advanced technique for most people. So when I'm trying to get this point across of the benefits of the mini cuts and bulks, this is what I do with clients is I run them in these 4-day type of calorie deficits, and then I allow them to feed, maintenance to feed over and then go right back into it again. And it sustains energy for them. It gives them, it breaks up the monotony of being in this really strict diet for a long time. You feel the surge of strength when you get the refeed back up again. Like it's a really cool way, I think, to teach somebody how to eat so they understand the science of what you're talking about right now.
Awesome. So go to mindpumpfree.com and check out some of our free guides. There's about 12 guides up on there. Some of them teach you how to train your arms or your legs or your midsection. Other guides teach you how to get a better squat or even how to become a more successful personal trainer. They're all free, and they're all available at mindpumpfree.com. And you can also check out our Instagram pages where we post different information than you'll hear on the podcast. My page on Instagram is mindpumpsal, Adam is mindpumpadam, and Justin is mindpumpjustin.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic. 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.